going to wait for this to come across to YouTube. I can see some guys in the chat. Welcome, Ivan. Welcome, Chris. Hey, Jamie. Yes, we are live on YouTube. 150 of you in here already. Welcome, welcome. I'm just thrilled that this integration into YouTube is working, having spent a few hours on it yesterday. So whatever happens for the rest of this session, I can be happy. Welcome, everyone. We're going to give everyone a couple minutes to join. We've got a pretty packed agenda, so I think we'll kick off pretty soon. But we're on YouTube, as you'll notice. Bit of a change from Zoom. Worst problems to have, but so many of you joined up, we needed a slightly more scalable solution. And YouTube's cool, so why not stream on YouTube if you can?
Hey,
Danny, hey, Jessica.
YouTuber.
Yeah, just it's my influence arc is really kicking off. All right, we've got 200 people in here. I'm sure a few more will continue to join, but let's kick off because we've got a lot to get through. Welcome, everyone. Session 2 of PromptMates Live. If you haven't seen like the title and the name of this show, I'll give you a 60-second intro. So we ran our first session last month. Jason did an awesome session on GPT-5 for recruiters. We had about 1,100 people attend and about 500 individual messages after the call to send a link, which was some unnecessary admin that maybe we should have used AI for, but we didn't. But that was a clear signal to us that there's appetite for recruiter training on AI. We wanted to get it to as many people as possible. So we thought, one, we'd make it a regular show. And two, we needed to find some partners who could help us and believed in that mission. Today, we've got Metaview and Sayal joining us. So super thankful for them for the support. Of course, I'm sure you've heard of Metaview. If you've logged onto LinkedIn recently, you've seen some of the cool things that they're doing. They're also massive advocates for recruiters being enabled with AI. So yeah, we're super happy to have them on the show. So just to run through the agenda, I'm going to hand over to Sayal in a minute. He's going to show us some of the cool stuff Metaview are doing with their new sourcing agent. Then Jason will do a very quick recap, 5 minutes from the last session, just on the mindset with building AI and get everyone up to speed on what kind of things we're covering on these sessions. Then I will give an intro to Gemini, run through some of the basic features, how it works. Then we'll go on to an intermediate use case back to Jason on using the deep research function for competitor analysis. And then we'll finish off with a slightly more complex build on a custom gem, building a Copilot that writes exactly like you, trained on your writing. And hopefully at the end of all that, we've got time for Q&A. Please drop them in the chat as we go. So I'm going to stop sharing and hand over to you, Sayal. We are excited to learn from Metaview.
Yeah, well, yeah, Joe, Jason, kudos to you guys for putting this together. And I know the first session was super well received, so congrats on that. And we were just chatting before. I really think that in some ways, what you folks are trying to achieve with PromptMates, and actually what I think about all the time, is sort of the same thing, which is we're trying to, figure out how humans and AI are going to work together to recruit, to build teams. That's what we think Metaview is essentially a vehicle for. That's what everyone in our company is spending time thinking about. So pumped to be supporting and obviously share more about what we're up to in this space as well. So I'm going to share screen now. Maybe Joe, you can be responsible for giving me a thumbs up to confirm that it is indeed being shared. We good, Joe? Sharing screen?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. So before we jump into what we've been working on recently, which is an AI sourcing agent, really I want to sort of just set the context for 3 or 4 broad themes that we see emerging and how work is changing. One, which I think you folks are going to spend a bunch of time on now in your in the rest of your session, is around context engineering. So how can you give the AI the context it needs to do a great job for you? The second sort of big emerging theme that you're seeing, again, outside of recruiting, is around what you might be called vibe working. Probably mainly people think of vibe coding. And then there's a couple of others that are sort of less mature around people starting to think of using AI, not just to reduce costs, but to do like improve quality. and then also just generally reducing the cost of prototyping and trying things to zero. So these are the sort of the four themes that we're working on. Today, I really want to focus on what we think of as vibe working and what is essentially the vibe coding equivalent for recruiters. So just if you're not familiar, what I've got here is a Google search term, Google Trends search term for two different, software engineering focused terms. The first, the red line, is test-driven development. And the second, the blue line, is vibe coding. And as you can see, just over the last few months, vibe coding has just exploded in terms of its general awareness in the market. And I think this is a cool thing to think about, and we'll get to the practicalities soon. But this is a cool thing to think about because you're essentially moving from this world where the sort of predominant way to work was in a way where you had to have a really clear idea of what you were trying to do before you got started, to now vibe working, which is much more of a, hey, just get me off the blank page and let's start collaborating because I have this artificial intelligence on tap and I can just get moving. And it's just becoming the predominant way of working. And so as I jump into showing you what Metaview's working on, we've been working on recently, which is an AI sourcing agent, I think another way to think of this is as like, what is vibe sourcing? How would I go about finding candidates in a way where I don't have to think about every variable up front? I can just start to sort of, weave my way through profiles. So I'm gonna jump over to Metaview now, and most folks will know Metaview as a AI note taker built specifically for recruiting. Loads of really smart stuff we do with the conversational data. One thing that people do a lot of the time is they have their intake calls on Metaview. So this is an intake call that one of our recruiters and one of our HMs had captured. Obviously, Metaview automatically captured a lot of the role details. And now what you can do with Metaview is you can say to Metaview, hey, actually, based on this intake call with this button here, go and find me some candidates. So instead of having to digest almost yourself, what's everything I learned during that intake call so I can go and work out a sourcing strategy, you can just in a click of a button say to Metaview, use this as your context, use this intake call as your context and create for me, go and find me some candidates. And so I'm in the AI sourcing part of the product now. And what you'll see is Metaview is giving me its real-time sort of stream of consciousness on what it's doing to help me find this profiles for this role, which in this case is a product marketing manager. It spent a bunch of time thinking, coming up with its plan. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to try and play back to me, hey, this is my understanding of what you're looking for. Is this correct? And so right now it's just putting together what we call an ICP, an ideal candidate profile. So I wanted to even just take a beat here before we go much further, just to hopefully reinforce how cool this is. We've gone from having an intake call, clicking one button, to now having this very detailed ideal candidate profile, which is essentially a prompt that AI has written for itself on what it should be looking for in future profiles or in profiles out there on the internet to find. So it's broken it down.
Sorry, could you just zoom in a little? Just checking the chat. A couple of people struggling to see. So if you don't mind, that'd be great. Cheers.
Absolutely. So just to sort of reinforce, we told the AI, hey, use this call to find the best candidate for this role. The AI did a bunch of thinking. You can sort of see its thinking trail here. It then put together this ideal candidate profile, which is essentially an area where I can collaborate with the AI to change, what I think is important or not. I can edit this document. And essentially, once we're satisfied that the AI has a good understanding off the back of this call, I can say to it, looks good. And it will start to kick off this search. It will take 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll come back to this in a second. But essentially what I've got here is a world, again, where I've had a call with the hiring manager, and actually within 5 seconds after that call, there's now an AI sourcing agent out there finding me a short list of candidates to A, collaborate with the hiring manager on, and B, potentially obviously reach out to and get into the pipeline.
Yeah, if I can make a comment, this is great, man, because one of the things that we talk about is using the AI to figure out a way for the AI to communicate with itself. We talk about using prompts to write prompts or
meta prompts.
Yeah, this is perfect, man. I mean, this really comes back down to the idea that, like, I think we made a joke on the last call that if I'm in Italy, I'm better off having an Italian translate for me. So, I mean, that's in essence what you're doing right now.
Yeah. And I think the thing that's like additionally, and one of the reasons we think it's really important to have, I know you're going to spend a bunch of time helping people understand how to get the most out of Gemini, and people should definitely be using those general purpose tools because there's so many things they can do that something like Metaview can't. But when you sort of have these very specific parts of your workflow that you actually spend, frankly, hours of your day on very frequently, having something that's more targeted, like the fact that this meta prompt, well, we call it an ideal candidate profile, but essentially, to your point, it's almost a bit of a meta prompt. The fact that it's editable, it's actually something that me and the AI collaborate on to make sure we have the same understanding is one of the things that makes this unique, right? We've built a product that exposes this prompt to you and gives you almost the same set of tools to edit it if you'd like to.
Yeah, and you're pulling in like a proven concept. I mean, sales has been using ICPs for decades now, right? And here you are doing it. You're giving that to recruiters now.
Yeah. So we'll come back to this in a second. I just want to show one more search, but just while we're here, you'll see that it's search. One thing about Metaview is it's truly agentic. So this is not just here, turn my commands into some filters. This is actually the AI going and searching the internet. It has access to a browser under the hood. It has access to data, 650, 700 million person database of public candidates or profiles. And it's actually thinking through. It realized its initial search was too refined, so it said, let me broaden the search to capture more candidates. It's realizing as it goes whether it's actually finding the right type of people based on the prompt we've given it, or the prompt is designed for itself. So it's actually using the LLM's intelligence to find the right people, as opposed to just applying a set of filters to a static database. We'll come back to this when it's got some candidates ready. For now, I want to show you another example of what I think of as vibe sourcing. So one of the things that's, I would argue, broken about how we recruit right now is we really force a lot of the time. I'm gonna be on the side of the hiring manager here. We sort of force the hiring manager to be really clear about exactly what they want. When in reality, before we start finding candidates and this sort of thing, when in reality, as a hiring manager, often when you see something, it can affect your understanding of what good looks like, right? And so actually, in reality, the focus should be on how do we get candidates in front of the hiring manager quickly so that we can start to learn what we're really looking for here, I would argue. So in this case, what I know is that let me give it a prompt. I want to hire,
just zoom where you can, style.
Sorry, I want to hire more AEs. I really like my current team, so let's find more people like them. I've also given you the JD for reference. So again, my prompt here is incredibly simple, and it's quite human, right? I just I really like my team. How do we find more people like that? And I just want the AI to have the context of what my team is so that it can figure it out. I don't have to sort of break down my understanding of what is great about my team. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to just add my the resumes and of my existing team, resumes of my existing team, plus the JD for the account executive role. I'm going to share that as context for the AI to save me the hassle of essentially writing up again my summary of what great looks like. I'm going to let the AI figure it out based on these profiles, and probably it will realize things that maybe I don't even know about my team. Feel free to ask me clarifying questions to improve your search. Cool. So again, focus here is really on vibe sourcing, right? I've gone from, well, I like my team, here's the resumes, go and find me more people like this, please. And so, but I've also told the AI, hey, feel free to ask me a few questions in order to improve your search. And so what it's doing right now is it is understanding my prompt. It's analyzing you can see here, maybe you can't actually let it analyze the current team to understand what they're looking for. So really it's, again, because it has this ability to show you its reasoning trail, you also feel closer to the AI, right? You know sort of how it got to where it got to, so you can correct it, just like working with a junior member of your team, except arguably a bit better, right? Because you can actually you have full transparency into how they did what they did. So let's jump in to see some of its thinking. Of course, it asked me way more questions than I wanted it to. I'm just gonna say just do the search. Anyway, so it's asked me a bunch of clarifying questions, probably more than I want to answer right now. Just do the search based on what But you can see it was trying to clarify for me, hey, is there an industry focus? Do you prefer startup experience or established tech companies? So I could have given it more context to help with its search. But in this case, I decided I wasn't going to do that. So now it's going to kick off its search for candidates as well. I'm going to jump back to the PMM role now, because I've obviously got these 2 searches on a go, which in itself is pretty magical, right? I've got 2 agents out there doing this sourcing for me. The PMM search, the initial PMM search is now completed. And as you can see, I've got 48 candidates who just off the back of that call that I had. So, 5 minutes after I finished that intake call, I've got a short list of 50, what are likely to be very high fit candidates. So this is our sort of vision for AI, for vibe sourcing, and really what we think the future of sourcing is going to look like. The magic from here is that this is still collaborative. So based on these profiles, if I say, hey, this person's not a fit, I can then give it feedback on why it's not a fit, and it constantly updates that ICP. So every time I give it some feedback, it's essentially using that, it's keeping that as memory, right? It's remembering that, well, I didn't like this for this reason, and therefore I'm going to get better and better at searching over time. Yeah, I think I guess just to sort of round it out, would strongly encourage folks to, after this webinar, of course, go and have a play with the product yourself. It's free to get started. Really love to hear any feedback on this. We are also very soon launching deep research as well for sourcing. So I know you're going to play around with that within the rest of the agenda here. But whether it's creating battle cards or whether it's just understanding movements on the market, using AI to really sort of understand where are certain companies typically hiring from, what geos are certain companies hiring in, all that sort of good stuff that folks need. This agent is built for that. So yeah, maybe we'll come on in a few weeks' time when we have that ready and can show folks that.
Yeah, we'd love to see it. Like super awesome to see what you're doing, man. Like, just thinking, when I was recruiting, just the ability to source 2 roles at once, like that sounds pretty tasty. So getting lots of Metaview love in the chat. Loads of people saying they're loving the tool, loving the new features. There's a bunch of questions, but I can see that the Metaview team are in there going through them, answering. So maybe in the interest of time, if you've got any questions, throw them in the chat, and it looks like the team are getting back there. And yeah, we got a packed schedule, so I think we'll move on. Anything you want to finish on, Jason, for Sile?
No, it was really interesting to see, and I am actually scheduled to have a Metaview demo in like a week, so this was a nice little sneak preview.
Nice. Yeah, you'll be connected with some folks who'll do a far better job than me, but glad you're on the list.
Fantastic. Thanks, and once again, thanks for doing this to allow us to bring stuff like this to people without any cost. I think that's really special, so we appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sile.
Thanks.
All right, Jason, let's get into Gemini. And do you want to give us a recap on kind of the mindset and how we're thinking about building with LLMs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this will be really quick because I want us to get to the good use cases everyone's here for. But what I wanted to remind people is AI can feel new, but the fact of the matter is most every single person in talent, in recruiting, in a people function has been using AI or a version of it for some time now. Like, it's been hidden inside our tools, inside LinkedIn or our ATSs, or platform tools like Metaview. The difference is when we talk about using LLMs or large language models, things like Gemini, what we're going to do today. You may have heard of Claude. I'm sure most people have heard of ChatGPT. It's a little bit different because in that point, what we're doing is we're actually going to own the workflow, and you're going to instruct it how you want these tools to work for you. There's a pretty popular analogy that people talk about where they say, treat it like an intern. I don't know about you guys, but growing up in recruiting, I have not been blessed with a ton of opportunities to have interns. So I usually try to think about it as, think about like you're training a junior recruiter. If you give a junior recruiter yes, no answers, yes, no questions and yes, no expectations, you're going to get very surface level answers. But if you take a second and you show some context, you give examples, you set expectations, the quality of work that you're going to get back is going to be superior. So if there's anything I do when I talk about the mind shift moment of working with these tools, is it is not about typing magic words and then hoping for an outcome. It's about building processes that you can reuse. And that's one of the major reasons why we wanted to do Gemini today. Is number one, a lot of people asked for it, which really gave Joe and I the signal that, you know, a lot of companies have Gemini in a more native fashion. A lot of companies are on the Google suite. If you use Gmail, Google Sheets, Slides, these sorts of things, then chances are you probably have Gemini integrated natively. And it also connects really, really, really well, and that's what Joe's going to show you, to the Google suite of products. And I think that goes back to when you're building processes, the less stuff you have to manually connect, the better. So there's our Mindshift moment. Y'all are already AI users. We just hope that in the next, you know, half hour, 40 minutes of today, you're going to be even stronger AI users.
All right, let's get into it. I mean, I could also probably talk for the rest of the session on why I love Gemini, but I think you covered it well. Like for most Google Workspace users, we're sat on this like amazingly powerful tool, which is data secure and plugged into your workspace. So I want to run through the main features and kind of we're going to go through 4 main features for the rest of this session. So the first one Jason mentioned there is connected apps. I'm then going to run through something called multimodality, which isn't as complex as it might sound. Jason will run through deep research and then back to me for custom gems. So I'm just going to stop sharing and then reshare because we're going to move over to Gemini. Bear with me. Okay. You see if it's okay, Jason? Looks good. Cool. So connected apps, first, like super basic, but for me, my apps weren't connected straight away. So to do that, you just head down to settings, apps, and you scroll down here and you turn this on. So I think this will be based on your workspace settings. For me, it was turned off by default and I needed to go and switch it on so that I can plug into the rest of the apps. You'll also probably noticed if you're Google Workspace that Gemini is also in these tools. So it's in your Sheets, it's in your Gmail. For the purpose of this session, we're going to focus on building within the Gemini app itself, which you can find on the top right when you're in your Google Workspace. You click those dots and you can see all your apps. Gemini's in there. So now we turn that on, effectively we have the connected apps in here, and I'm going to just show basically how they work with the app feature, which I think is kind of the easiest way to use them. And maybe I'll zoom in a little bit here so everyone can see. I'm going to copy these prompts across. Now, the app feature basically, just to show it here, allows you to, like you're tweeting someone and you put at their username, right? You can put at and then an app. So you can see here at, and then my Google Workspace apps comes up. You can do a general search of all Workspace, or you can plug in a specific one. So I'm going to copy some prompts across just for ease. And you'll notice if, for example, when we send some prompts out to you afterwards, if you copy prompts across and they have the at in, it doesn't tag it. So just to show you the difference, when I press calendar here, it's bolded. So this is now the taggers work. So just something to be aware of when you're copying prompts across, which we'll do throughout this session, just to save time. So I have Gemini up all the time. It's like my Copilot, my productivity assistant. So some of these things like you could do natively in the app, I find it a lot quicker just to have it in one and to be able to do it across apps in one place. So here we're asking it, as granola pops up, here we're asking it to create a 1 hour block in my Google Calendar whenever I next have a 1 hour slot, so I can do some sourcing on the Metaview agent after seeing it. And here you can see, thankfully that works. Like you'll see, it's now plugged into my calendar. It's going through my calendar, it's looking for the spot, and it should hopefully come back and block out that time for me. So again, you could do this in the calendar, but just kind of a very simple use case to show you how it works. And it's found some time for me within my working hours at 6 p.m. later to do that. So just to show another use case, let's do tasks. So again, I'm going to copy this prompt across. Again, it's not tagged, so we need to do that. Let's go task sim. And I use tasks for my to-do list. So here I'm going to ask it to add a task, and then I'm going to ask it to list all of my open tasks for me. So hopefully that should work, and it will now plug into a tasks app. As you can see, it's added for me to have a async review with Jason about this session, and then to come back and given me all of my to-do list for the day. I usually do this at the start of the day to understand what I have to do. So now let's look at how we could possibly connect those two apps together. So we pull the information from tasks. Now let's push that information to calendar in a slightly more meaningful and time-saving way. So here we're going to copy this prompt across. And now we're going to take that input from tasks. It's going to review my Google Calendar, and it's going to schedule my day to get all of those tasks done outside of the things that are already in my calendar, so meetings and other reminders.
This is great to see. I didn't know that I was important enough to be scheduled on your task list. I thought I just got random WhatsApps when I was top of mind.
Yeah, usually there's like 100 tasks, which is like message Jason this, message Jason this. So I tidied them up for the purpose of this call. This one can take a little longer because it's going and it's finding a slot for every single task. So this one will run for a second and then should block out my calendar for tomorrow. So this is cool. This is like an update we didn't have at first, where before you could pull information from the apps, but now you can actually push information to them as well. So it can post info on there for you, which is pretty helpful. I'm just going to open.
Kind of goes back to what we were saying around the idea of like ChatGPT at the moment, unless you've got some really sophisticated stuff on the back end, is good at pulling, but it is not a pusher really yet for stuff like this.
Exactly. So here we go. It took a little bit of time, but it's gone through. I know for a fact I don't have any more slots today after the one we just scheduled. So it's gone to tomorrow, which is my next available slots, and it's found them outside of my calls. And it's given, I'd say, some fairly sensible times as well, like an hour for the sprint, but a bit less on the messaging side. So, and then you can see each individual thing here. So that's how the connected apps works on a basic level for some basic use cases. We'll move into some more advanced ones. It's going to open a new chat. So the next thing I wanted to explain is something called multimodality, and this is honestly a lot more simple than it sounds. I just wanted to give it a cool sounding title, if I'm honest. But when these AI or LLM apps first came up, they worked on single input. So when you think about ChatGPT, whenever it sprung up, hey Jason, when did it spring up? You were saying you were like in the first 4 days of being a user.
That would be 1,057 days ago that it first released to the general public.
Not that you're a super fan or anything. So when these apps first came out, there was one input type, and it was typically text, right? You would write text in there, and it would understand that text, and it would generate or give you responses based on that text. Where Gemini is now, and this is the same with ChatGPT or Claude, is they're multimodal. So they're able to take different input types, so text, audio, video, photo, spreadsheets, Word docs, etc., and they're able to not just analyze them individually, but they're able to analyze them holistically, almost like a human would, right? You know, various different people, contexts, and you can paint a picture across them. So what this allows us to do effectively is find needles in haystacks. We can give it large amounts of information in various different types, and it can look for consistencies or inconsistencies across these. So this was a really powerful kind of mindset shift for me, was going from just putting text in or just putting like a CSV file in to putting multiple different types of media and inputs in there. And I've got an example to run through to show how this can be powerful. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at our entire recruiting process and do a little bit of an audit for consistency of messaging, assessment, and candidate experience throughout that. So for ease, I've downloaded the files. Again, you could use the at function here to pull them into Gemini directly, but just to kind of make things a little bit more straightforward on this call, we're going to go into the process audit here. So let me run through what the inputs are. So first, I've got a photo. PNG.
Joe, we're still seeing the Gemini screen.
Yes, good call. Let's go for screen 2. You're gonna have to bear with my entire screen here. So sorry, just to roll that back. So I pressed add files and I'm uploading files. Again, you could add from Drive, but just to make it easy, I've downloaded them already so we can kind of run through the inputs one by one. So first thing I have is a photo. This is taken from our careers site. My example here, haven't told Jason this yet, but we're hiring a product manager at PromptMates. So hopefully we have budget for that, Jason. So first thing I have is our careers page, which all of the PromptMates candidates see on our website. The next thing I have is our job advert. So this is in a PDF format. So this could be the internal description or the external document. In this case, it's the external document for the role. I then got a screening transcript. So this could be from Metaview or potentially any other recorder you're using, which is a TXT or could be an audio file. And then finally, I have a CSV spreadsheet file, which is my interview questions and scoring rubric. So I'm going to go ahead and upload all of those. And then, as you know, if you listen to Jason in the first session, we're very big on AI writing your prompts for you versus writing massive prompts yourself. So I told AI what I wanted to do in terms of conducting this audit, and it created a prompt for me, which you can see here is in AI language, but effectively is asking it to act as a consistency auditor for our recruitment process. It tells it what the inputs are going to be, and it gives it a very clear step process to look for inconsistencies, and then give us a step plan at the end. So let's run this. It may take a second. Okay, here we go. So task 1 was to look for any critical inconsistencies, so like real big red flags that we probably should be avoiding. And as you can see here, it's come up with one. So in our job advertisement, we've put that it's fully remote in the US, but then in our screening call, we've mentioned that actually it's hybrid and we're more looking for someone in the office. So quite a big red flag. I would expect this maybe isn't happening in tons of your processes, but you never know. Second is some smaller inconsistencies. So these are like the little 1%ers. And you can see here in our job ad, again, we've put like work-life balance is a big kind of cultural sell for us with unlimited PTO. But then in the screening call, we're looking for someone who's like very intense. Our culture is to like work very hard, long hours. So again, might not be some discrepancy here, but it sounds like there could be, and it's worth digging into more detail. And then we have a few more here, which is inconsistencies in the scoring rubric and the questions that are being asked. So we have a couple of questions which are being asked, which we don't have an assessment framework for, and there's one we do have an assessment framework for that hasn't been validated in the screening call. So again, this is probably something that we want to fix to have consistency throughout what we're advertising for, what we're screening against. And we have that down here in a 3-step action plan on how we can fix this. So this probably took me like 5-10 minutes to get all these inputs. We have them all already. It was just getting them, uploading them to Gemini and building a prompt. And we've got a full audit of the kind of candidate experience and any inconsistencies in our process. So hopefully this use case itself is helpful, and it gives you maybe some inspiration to look for other use cases by adding different kinds of inputs. Cool. Jason, you want to run us through some deep research?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do want to just kind of double click on the idea that when you said multimodality, I was like, man, we're going to sound fancy. But I mean, that's really what it is. And one of the things I love about being able to use these, you call it AI, assistive technology, whatever the heck it is it really does allow folks in the talent space and the people space to kind of level up and really truly be a little bit more strategic and, competitive intelligence. So being able to audit everything you just showed, I mean, I know that if I was to try to have done that 12 months ago, probably would have taken me like, half a quarter sort of thing.
Yeah, just sifting through all of those things individually, like which we would have had to do not that long ago, feels crazy now, doesn't it? So
It's wild. All right, let's see if my screen share capabilities are up to snuff. All right, there's pretty meta, us looking at each other. Joe, are you on mute? Can you just make sure you can hear me and see everything?
yeah, it looks good. Just remember to zoom, checking the chat. There's a
Right.
constant need for us to zoom
I
in.
think
So
this is as big as I can zoom.
looks good. Just
That might
the
be it.
constant zoom mindset. Keep it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I want to run through today is something in Gemini called deep research. Deep research is actually available across a variety of different LLMs. All it means is what it's going to do is not only use its individual language model to find answers to stuff, but it's also going to go out and do actual research on the web. I personally dig Gemini's deep research versus ChatGPT's and some others. In my experience, I just feel that it goes across more websites better than some of the other ones. You also got to remember too, Gemini, owned by Google, they've been in the business of understanding websites now for a real long time. So as part of PromptMates, just know any of these prompts that we're clicking in and showing, we're going to send to you guys, so you don't have to worry about screenshotting or anything like that. But what we're going to talk about today is using deep research to create battle cards. So you'll have access to this, the deep research battle card prompt. One thing to know is usually we create prompts that you paste in, then I'll ask you some questions and you fill out information. With deep research, as soon as you put a prompt in, it goes off and starts researching. So for this one, what I'd recommend you do, come on over here, make it a copy. We're going to call it PromptMates copy. And then you can go in here and edit away anything you'd like. Instructions are pretty clear. You're going to copy everything from the start all the way down to the end, but first you got to fill out the green. Last time we did a use case about me being an aspiring chief pizza officer. I was told to not use it, can't use pizza again. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about F1. I wrote this use case with a very fresh sunburn from going to the race here in Austin on Friday. So that's what inspired this. So we're going to be Red Bull Racing. We can list our competitors. I'm actually going to have it choose my competitors. You see here where it says find them. Find them. Type of role we're going to be focused on. Let's look for something engineering. So let's do like a power unit design engineer. Since it's Red Bull, we're going to keep it over there. It's Milton Keynes. We'll keep it in the UK. Probably going to go for somebody relatively senior. Let's go 12 months. So this is asking like how far back you wanted to actually do the research. I'm going to say 12 months, like one season. And is there a special focus? I'm going to say no special focus. So now I've got a prompt that I've customized. I'm going to start here, copy it all the way down to end of prompt. And I'm going to come over here. Now, you got to make sure that we do deep research for this. So there's two different ways to do deep research. You can click deep research, and then it'll come up on the bottom. If by chance you forget to click it when you paste your prompt in, I guess you can still do it. You can also go here and click deep research. Now, this is going to run, and it's probably going to take somewhere in the neighborhood of like, usually 5 to 10 minutes. Obviously, for time, we're not going to go ahead and sit here and wait the full 5 to 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and let this one run and, kind of like I'm pulling a cake out the oven on a baking show. We're going to go ahead and show you what to do with the deep research battle cards that I got back. Okay. So I'm going to do this right here in just an open new Gemini chat. If I were doing this for my company, I've actually worked for Red Bull Racing and I was having to compete against, these teams all that often in recruiting, I'd probably go ahead and create a gem and then add this. Joe's going to show you gem creation, so I didn't want to be duplicative. So what I'm going to do here is add a file. And remember, Joe showed us that we're all connected up. So I'm going to add it from Drive this time. You'll see here, UK F1 competitor battle card. So what I've done now is when we talk about setting context and we talk about, making sure that you tell the junior recruiter as much information as you can so that they can go out and do their search. What we've just done is we have set the context. We've said, this is about a 22-page document. There's a 22-page document all about why Red Bull Racing is fantastic and why it's better than the competitors in the UK, in this case, Aston Martin, probably McLaren, and I'm sure it'll pull Mercedes, how we can properly sell against them. And then in the prompt 2, we can take a quick look. I mean, the things that it's pulling are stuff around finance, momentum, talent, and culture, stuff from Glassdoor, Blind, any kind of compensation information based on external pay transparency from job descriptions, just overall talk tracks. So we designed this to go out and find everything we could that we felt was useful for a recruiter to be able to sell against a competitor. But if there's something else in here you really wanted, you could always go in and tweak your individual prompt. Now, also, just in the interest of speed, I have given you a quick starter prompt as well. So we can go here and we can put in our quick starter prompt. And you'll see here, you just got to put in your role. So the role we were doing is going to be a senior design engineer. And we work for Red Bull. And let's see, who do we care about? We care about McLaren and we care about Aston Martin right now. We're not going to worry about a third competitor today. And then, go ahead.
I was just gonna unnecessarily be angry if there was no mention of Ferrari, but probably not relevant.
So I've decided that our design engineer wants to stay in the UK. So he's just not interested in possibly going to Italy. So I kept it all in your neck of the woods. All right, now turn off deep research, which when I do that, guess what's going to happen? I just realized it's going to go ahead and delete my prompt. So I'm going to kill it. And see, it's going to make me start a new chat. So once again, this is just for review. I'm doing it for everybody so they know where to find it. Okay. Now, up here, you've got Flash and you've got reasoning. For this purpose, I'm going to go with Flash. All Flash is doing is it's an execution. Research is going to go out and maybe the reasoning is going to do a little bit more thinking. Since we're giving this such a really small data set, we're giving it like a 22-page Google Doc. Flash is fine. So we're going to leave it on Flash and hit submit. Now, what this will do is just going to go out and give us a real first level about why they should want to come to Red Bull. Okay. So how to go against McLaren, their success is recent. Ours is more extensive. We can talk about, I'm sure they're going to talk about, the high financial risk and delayed payoff of Aston. So this is something that you can have to be able to dive into immediately. But where I find is like interaction is what really matters. So now that we've set the stage, we can say things like, the candidate told me Aston Martin said they will beat any offer that we put forth. Because, they got deep pockets. Now, what this should do is you should basically now give me an understanding of like, yes, Aston has the ability to pay a lot of money right now. However, it's going to be high risk. I bet you that's what's going to say. And I want to make sure we have plenty of time to get Joe's thing. So in the interest of that, as it starts to come back, we can have a whole nother question ready to go. Let's say something like, the team over at McLaren said their culture is better. This is why they have cakes pop out of ovens on cooking shows. So I'm going to queue this guy up just in case. And then I'm going to cheat and refresh this and see if I can go ahead and hop Google to push itself forward. Oh, let's try the Aston again. Aston Martin told them that they will beat our salary offer by 15%. How do I combat that? Let's see if we get a little bit more. Remember the junior recruiter? Maybe I didn't give them enough context. There we go. Okay, so it's going to come in and say that yes, there is perhaps a better salary increase, but look at that. You put your total career at risk. How many times have we done that? How many times in recruiting have we said, yes, you can go work for, XYZ company, but like you're going to be employee number, 40,044, whereas you come here, you're going to be employee number 11, and there's so much more upside, these sorts of things. Financial stability. I bet you they're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about, which one has a more stable future for a senior employee? One with proven commercial financial health, or one gambling on a massive debt to maybe win in 2016? So I would argue that that's ethical when you're bringing forth a good problem to them. Now let's really quickly give it the thing we already preceded about McLaren saying their culture is fantastic. The prestige tax. I appreciate that McLaren does a fantastic job of managing its public image, especially after the recent success. But let's be honest, for a senior engineer like you, culture isn't about PR. It's about professional respect, work-life stability, and financial reward, all of which. So now let's go ahead and say, these are all great. Using my tone of voice, here's a little preview for what Joe's going to show you how to do. My tone of voice, send the candidate an email saying, send the candidate an email countering these points. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add my tone of voice. This is the thing that Joe's going to show us all how to do. Oh, I should have put Jason's tone of voice. There we go. All right, honestly, this to me feels like probably not something I want to throw in an email. I don't really want to put in writing from Red Bull that I'm talking smack about Adrian Newey. Like, that's not a good look. So finally, the last thing I could say is, on second thought, this is better as a call. Can you write an email asking them for 20 minutes on the phone and create for me the talking script so I can address the issues? So through a 10-minute search directly about our competitors, and now in 5 minutes, we've been able to understand a candidate's genuine concerns about why they should or shouldn't come to Red Bull in this case. We have decided that sending that information in an email is unprofessional, and in such want to go ahead and do it in person, and then created an invite for them to go ahead and come do it in person. So there's my deep research. I really want to get to Joe's stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and kick it back over. But once again, you guys will get the prompts after this, and you can do this yourself.
Thanks, man. You know how recruiters all like to kind of, complain about that hiring manager that maybe makes our life a little difficult. I'm wondering if anyone's had a hiring manager as bad as Christian Horner before.
I'm sure we all have.
Well, I feel bad for those recruiters, but okay. So that's a deep research feature. We're going to talk a little bit about custom gems. These are very similar to custom GPTs if you're more familiar with ChatGPT, and they're more popularized, but they've been on Gemini for a while. There's a big unlock that happened, I don't know how long it was, maybe 4 weeks ago, where they became shareable. So what a gem is where you can build like a reusable tool within Gemini for the same use case you want to use over and over again. So you can build them for yourself to reuse, or you can build them for your team. And you can now share them across your team. So build once, everyone uses them. Today we're going to focus on one you can build for yourself, and in future sessions we'll maybe look at ones you might want to build centrally and roll out across your team. So a big thing we do in recruiting is write stuff. We write emails to candidates, we write Slack messages to hiring managers, we write outreach messages to candidates, maybe LinkedIn posts to promote our roles or our company. And I think we all know AI can write things quicker than we can, but often it's not quicker to get to that final output, right? Because we spend a lot of time editing it, asking it to write it again, giving up and starting ourselves because we get this kind of AI slop, or even if it's good writing, it just doesn't sound like us. And we all communicate in different ways, right? Like me and Jason communicate in very different ways. We have cultural differences between Jason's kind of SF mentality to my dreary London way of talking, right? And you see that in our LinkedIn posts, which I write all by myself. I think Jason mainly writes his as well. So like you can see the difference in our communication through them. So what if you could get AI to write exactly like you because it was trained on the writing you've spent years doing before? So that's the gem we're going to build. Like we're thinking about Gemini as a Copilot here. So how can you build something which writes stuff for you, which already sounds exactly like you? So when you're building a gem, and we'll quickly show that now, I'm conscious of time, so we'll send all these prompts out afterwards, which will go through in detail, like how to actually build these things, but let's get through as much as we possibly can right now. So just to share this screen, so we've gone, expanded the menu, pressed explore gems, and then here, like I have a ton of gems I've made already, but we're going to create a new gem. And you'll see here, we need a few things. So we need the instructions, which are basically the prompt, and we need to, or we can add some knowledge files, which we're going to do. So we're going to create this knowledge file, and what it's going to be is a tone of voice document, which are the instructions. For me, it's going to be the Joe Atkinson tone of voice document. So it's a training for the LLM on how I write. So we're going to do that actually in a chat first, and let me just switch to screen 2. There we go. I'm going to switch between things, so you just have to bear with me having the URL in. So I'm actually going to build this in my purple version of Gemini, which is the company I ran for the last 2.5 years. And the reason I'm doing that is there's more writing in my purple workspace from me than there is in Seed. I've only had that account for like 3 months. So if you've just joined a new company or started a new company like PromptMates, then you may have this issue where you need to find some content from somewhere else. Again, we've got AI to write the prompts, and I'll just zoom in here. So we're going to do this on a chat, and we're going to get it to go through all of my emails using the email plugin on the connected app we spoke about earlier to learn about my writing. Now, we've given it a few parameters that it needs to find sent emails, and there's a little bit of setup we have to do for it to be able to do that. So it's picking up emails I've sent that instead of received. So it's not picking up when Jason's emailed me and it's his writing. And the second is it's looking for quality emails. So it's not looking for those ones where I just put sounds great, thanks Joe, which I often do on emails. So it's got parameters where they're of a certain length, and it's got me writing full sentences. So AI's written this prompt again. We'll send it to you, or you can get AI to write a prompt for you. But it's a 2-step process where first it's going to validate who I am, find the sent emails, and then create a persona so it understands who I'm writing for. And then it's going to create the full knowledge file as step 2. As you can see here, it's looking to create the full instructions. So in the name of time, let's just get this across. Now, if you remember earlier, when you're copying across prompts with the @ it's not going to be tagged already. So this is the crucial thing if you're using my prompt, is to make sure that Gmail is tagged there. Otherwise, it might not pull your emails. So let's run this prompt. And what it's going to do is it's going to first ask me for my company domain. So this is to find my sent email. So you can just put your domain, or you can put your full email, which I will here. This is an old email, guys. Don't email me on it. And then hopefully, as long as Gemini is working okay, it will find the domain and then be able to read through my emails. Again, you can see the prompt working here. Okay, so first thing is looking for my persona. So this is really important, as it needs to understand mainly the audience you're writing for, and then some like general instructions and details about you. So client-facing project management role, pretty accurate. Communication is to drive projects forward with clarity, strong sense of partnership. So I was dealing with a lot of external stakeholders, so I'd say that's accurate. Reliable point of contact, complex information. So I would say this is a pretty spot on persona. All I'm going to say is I like to write directly, which I do. I love to like write bullet points and kind of keep my email short, but remain friendly. Like that's really important, that I'm not rude and we still have good manners.
And I agree that you are professional, authoritative, genuine, and helpful.
That's very kind. I didn't want to say these things myself. Cool. So we're pretty happy with it. We just want to really reiterate that point, but it's got the audience. It understands generally how I write. And now, as long as Gemini is working correctly, it's going to go through and read all of my emails that are of a certain length until it's got the amount of emails we've asked for. So it should just be finishing up. Yep, cool. So this is pretty run. Now this is going to create a large document, which has like, again, my persona. It has negative constraints built in to like really reinforce some of the things written below. And then it has like loads of different categories to do with writing. So vocab, grammatical patterns, punctuation, sentence structure. We won't go through them all because there's a ton, but it's like all about how I write. And then it finishes off with even calls to action. It finishes off with like a do and don't guide for the AI to refer back to. So what I've done this already, is I'll then copy this into a doc and download it as a PDF, because this is going to be our knowledge file, right? Conscious of time here. Let's whiz through this. Co-writer, have a few already, so let's call this co-writer 3. The description, write stuff like me. And then we're going to hit that thing in the knowledge file, so co-writer, and this is just a copy and paste of that output that we've just created.
Yeah, and then I'll say, Joe, we're going to send this out to everybody too. So if we go a couple minutes over and you got to drop for a meeting, feel free.
Yeah. Then what we have, which I won't show you, you're just going to have to trust me, is we have the gem instructions. Which I'm just going to copy and paste in. Bear with me. Again, we'll send these to you. Effectively, all these instructions are saying, I'm going to give you stuff to write. Figure out how to write it by sticking exactly to the knowledge file and not deviating. It's kind of treating Gemini like it's a naughty school kid and it needs to just stick to what it's being told. And it's a very long way of doing that, which the AI understands. And then we save. And we have just created a co-writer for ourselves. Super short on time, so tons of examples we could show here, which are recruiting specific, like we said earlier, outreach emails. Remember, it's plugged into your emails. It's plugged into Word docs that you have. I found this one article from this guy that I found kind of interesting about the new visa stuff in the US. So I'm going to say, write me a summary of this article for my leadership team, because let's say we want to get people on the visa to our entity in the US and they need to know about this. So it will take in any information we give it, and it will come back. Again, said I love to communicate in bullet points. It's come with some key bullet points on each of the sections. It's pretty to the point, it's clear. this is generally how I tend to write my emails and my updates. And you can see here, it's referencing the knowledge file. So it's looking at how I write things, and it gives you like its academic research, the quotes of like where it's found how to write from the knowledge file, which is pretty cool. So tons of things you can do with this. Apologies, we couldn't go into the kind of the build and the prompts in more detail, but we'll send them out to you to have a play with after. I know we're here at time, so if you need to drop, you need to drop, but maybe Jason, we can stick for 5 minutes and do a few questions. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, 100%. One thing I will add too, by the way, you may notice a lack of emphatic dashes on here. Gemini does a much better job of that. So for those of you that get frustrated like I do when you use ChatGPT as your writer and it puts in that long dash that rats on you for using AI, Gemini does a much better job of not tattling on you.
Okay, sorry guys, haven't been checking the chat too much, so just gonna run through.
One of the questions I see keep coming up was like, what can you do with Pro versus what can you not do with Pro? Of everything that we've shown today, I mean, you're the Gemini expert, so keep me honest here, but like, I think the only thing that's not available with the standard version of Gemini is the deep research function.
It's actually a great question. I mean, we have it within, like, if you have Google Workspace, you probably have Gemini Premium. If you don't, I would actually need to check because I haven't messed around with the free version. Okay,
I had to upgrade to we had to upgrade our PromptMates yesterday to it.
Okay, what's cool is you can still build custom gems on the free version, just checking that now, which you can't do on ChatGPT. So that could be like a quite cool unlock if you've just been using free LLMs. Give Gemini a go and you can build custom gems, and you can't do the equivalent on GPT. So that's kind of cool.
Check out Greg's question. Tips on getting over the mental hurdle of connecting to Gmail or company email for context and style. No different than using Gmail. So that's going to be more for you, Joe. We're talking about like, Greg,
yeah.
Greg, your question more, how do we do it, or the mental hurdle of like exposing all of the stuff that you've written to an LLM? I
think how I take that question is the last part, and it could be off piece here, but no different to using Gmail. And I agree with you for some use cases, like it could be the same amount of time just to go into Gmail, reply in there. Like the unlock to go back to the start of the session is where you're like bringing in like different inputs. So for me, if I'm replying to a candidate email asking for feedback, and I have the feedback saved in my drive in like, 2 different files, I can just say, hey, summarize the feedback from these 2 docs, multimodal, and get the email from the candidate and write reply covering their concerns. So yeah, that's kind of one example, is when you're connecting multiple things together. Is that what you think he was meaning there?
Yeah, and he's also asking about whether or not it's a good idea to scrub personal information. I think if you're talking about personal information from a candidate and you're living in, in an EMEA, then I think that it goes kind of country by country. For us here in the States, when we are using our enterprise version of Gemini, we are putting candidate information in it because it's completely protected behind our SSO and all that stuff.
Yeah, I always check these things internally. I would say, like, don't this is kind of like not financial advice from us, like we're not financial advisors type stuff. Yeah. But generally, like for me, we're on the pro version. As you can see down here, our chats aren't used to feed into the models, so we're not putting candidate data in there. We're on a plan where we have our own data secure environment, so we are like within all of our permissions to use client information in there or recruiting data. Be careful if you're on the free models, and like check internally if you're not on kind of these pro versions.
I think we might be good. We got 175 people that came overtime with us. That's pretty fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Oh, damn, looks like it might have froze. Did it freeze?
I'm looking at it on Gemini, and on YouTube, and it doesn't look frozen. So
it doesn't. Okay, we're good. Any more questions to finish, or shall we wrap it up there? Provision of voice. I mean, Jason's massive for using the voice thing, right? Like I speak to it all the time. It's a massive time saver, especially for writing long prompts. So yeah, absolutely use the voice feature. It's down on the bottom right there. Cool. All right. Any closing thoughts, Jason, or should we wrap it up there?
I mean, shout out to you for figuring out how to use YouTube, make us feel so much cooler. And once again, thanks for everybody coming. We're excited to continue to do these things. And, you know, we'll send you some follow-ups with all the goodies and some ways to track us so you can come to the next one.
Yeah, next one's scheduled. We have a calendar until the end of the year. I think we're doing 3 more after this one until the end of the year. So sign up to all of them, get them in your calendar. We're taking requests for like what content you want us to cover. Like there's tons of things we could build. And as you've seen, it's hard to squeeze them in an hour. We're also thinking of getting some exciting guests who've also built some cool stuff on. So yeah, sign up to the next ones. Thanks for joining. Thanks to Metaview for supporting, and see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.